Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Blitzkrieg, our own strategic affairs show. A very happy new year to all our viewers. Today, we have a very important topic to discuss. Recently, Dr. Moeed Yusuf, the NSA of Pakistan, said that economics or financial sovereignty is also part of national security. Now, this is a paradigm change in how Pakistan has been thinking all these years. Earlier, there was only one enemy, India. And now, there are very prominent Pakistanis in positions of power, in the corridors of power, who say that India is not the enemy. The enemy is the enemy within. It is forces like the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also the brittle economic situation of Pakistan. I have a fantastic guest today. I'm going to welcome Professor Madhav Nalapat. Sir, a very warm welcome to our show, sir. Professor Nalapat, is strategic analyst and vice chairman, Manipal Advanced Research Group. He joins us live. And I also have Syed Mohammad Shabar Zaidi Sahab. A very warm welcome, sir. He's past president, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and former senior partner, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Also served as the 26th chairman of the Federal Board of Revenue, Pakistan, from May 2019 till April 2020. He's also served as a provincial minister in the government of Sindh. Welcome, gentlemen, both of you. And I'll start off by first talking to Syed Mohammad Shabar Zaidi. Zaidi Sahab, my first question to you is, you made a recent comment about Pakistan not being a going concern. So I looked it up because I'm not a chartered accountant. I looked it up and I said I found out pretty much what it meant. You also mentioned about Pakistan being bankrupt, and then you qualified it by making certain statements and saying that, no, this is not what I meant. And you had a long Twitter thread to explain what you had to say. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'd like to understand from you what you actually said and what is the current situation in Pakistan. Go ahead, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for calling me. The episode you are referring to was my lecture, because I am a regular teacher at the universities in Pakistan, and my topic, it was an internal session with my students, and what we were discussing was that the country has to we have to see that the state's position don't apply on the regular entities. But it is very essential that the state should also manage their inflows and outflows in a manner that it doesn't fall in a problem in the future days to come. In Pakistan, what we have done now, as I have said, that we have to we are now concentrating on the economic affairs for the reason that certain fundamental financial issues which are creeping in, which are not the major issues, but it is very important that the state should run in a manner that that it has got resources for the development of its people, and I believe that the right message has been conveyed and things are moving in the right direction from this afterwards what I have said, and they were already going on there, and now it's being consolidating. That's my observation. And basically, I am not an economist, I am an accountant by profession, and what I was saying that we have to be very careful about our future debts and our resources in Pakistan, because we have to substantially increase our tax to GDP ratio if we want to get out of the cash crunch from the government of Pakistan.
Ji, thank you, Zaidi Saab, for your opening comments. Professor Madhav Nalapat, Zaidi Saab says that, things are looking better. I don't think they're looking better, sir. I don't think they're looking better because I'm not an economist. I don't understand economy too well, but it's like budgeting of a household. They are borrowing to make their ends meet, and then they are borrowing to pay interest on what they have borrowed. The tax net has actually shrunk a little bit, not increased. Their remittances are the only saving grace that they can account for. But again, a problem with remittances is that, the the succeeding generations or successive generations of Pakistanis living abroad are not that emotionally connected with their motherland as the previous generations. They tend to get married there. I mean, similarly for maybe Indians or Bangladeshis or anybody else for that matter. And so this in the future is also going to be a problem. Professor Nalapat, what are your comments? You know, you heard what Zaidi Saab said. So what do you think?
Well, the fact of the matter is that it's very unfortunate that the Faustian bargain has got to be struck by any individual who takes over the government of Pakistan. Whether it's Imran Khan, whether it was Nawaz Sharif, whether it was Benazir Bhutto, the Faustian bargain is that you have to basically give a blank check to the military. And the reality is, look, I don't believe it is the strategic doctrine of India to claim any territory of the state of Pakistan. I don't believe that is the case at all. There are, of course, views regarding a territory that has been seized by Pakistan from the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But barring that, there is absolutely nothing that India is going to do to claim 1 square inch of territory in what was declared to be Pakistan in 1947. But at the same time, you have an oversized military. And it has become, it became so oversized that it went into politics. And it went into politics, it went into business. And frankly, it is an unsustainable load on the people of Pakistan. This is multiplied by the fact that if you are close to the military, you don't have to pay your taxes properly. So the amount of people paying taxes, now I know that, Dr. Aslam and Dr. Zaidi are not in this group at all. But unfortunately, there are people who are extremely well off, who can well afford to pay money, but they will not pay money because they are quote unquote well connected. In Pakistan, well connected does not mean being well connected to politicians, as the case in India. It means well connected to those who are in uniform. So this is the tragedy that is befalling the people of Pakistan. It is the people who are suffering from this Faustian bargain. And may I just make one more point before I sign off for this bit. The Chinese are very different from the Americans. The Americans, frankly, gave Pakistani a very, very long rope. And they gave a tremendous amount of bounty without really expecting it back and not even, basically pushing very hard to get it back. The Chinese are even better shopkeepers than the British were reputed to be. They are not giving grants de facto or de jure. They are giving loans and they insist on repayment, whether in the physical form of control over assets for long periods of time or in a monetary form. And as far as the GCC is concerned, again, Absolutely. The problem is not with the people of Pakistan. They are not Wahhabi, but the military, unfortunately, from Zia's time has become Wahhabi, with the result that several GCC countries, that is the UAE and Saudi Arabia, are now moving away from Pakistan and are no longer willing to fund Pakistan, especially the Pakistan military.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, Professor Nalapat. I'll go to Professor Dr. Qais Aslam. Sir, we saw images and videos of the National Assembly in Pakistan. There was absolute bedlam. People were assaulting each other, all about the mini budget. Now, I'm not going to get into that. My question is purely technical, sir. What happens if the budget is passed, and what happens if it is not passed? That's my question to you, sir. If it's passed, what happens? And if it's not, then what happens?
If the budget is not passed, then the government will have to find ways of squeezing itself so that it can reduce its deficits. And if it is passed, yes, the crunch of these taxes will go on both our investors, where the economy is going to shrink to some extent, both by monetary policy as well as our fiscal policy, and on naturally the general public, especially the middle classes, who will have to pay more. Now, the whole issue is a trade-off in the context. I would not go into the politics of things, but I think that it is the overall inefficiency of our subsequent regimes over the years, whether they were military or whether they were democratically elected, not to direct the economy, not to make the economy as the engine of growth in that context. Our governments have more relied on revenues from the different taxes, which they have not been able to collect efficiently. But in the context, the productivity of our four factors of production is not to the international standards. I think the government needs very seriously, and any economist in that context, to transform this budget or the finance into economic oriented rather than revenue oriented. I believe that it's too big, too inefficient government. But at the same time, yes, if the budget is passed, it will become a little difficult for common people to accumulate wealth. And but the crunch, as we are saying, is interestingly came from two sources. One is buying machinery for our large industry, which was about $6 billion worth, and the other is speculative buying of dollars in the context, which imported inflation. But at the same time, I think the government has to rethink its economic priorities in the context. And in my view, difficult situations allow governments and people to make difficult trade-offs and come up to the right direction. I think this is the high time we take that direction.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Zaidi Saab, my question to you is, you heard what Dr. Qais Aslam had to say. Now, Zaidi Saab, my question to you is, last year, sometime, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, Chief of Army Staff of the Pakistan Army, spoke at the Islamabad Dialogues, and he spoke about geoeconomics. He's also been speaking about Pakistan, not in so many words, but that is the intent and that is the import of what he said about Pakistan being seen as a normal nation that has normal relations with its neighbors, with the West, with the Chinese. Now, I want to ask you now, all this makes a lot of sense to me. Geoeconomics makes a lot of sense because, if tomorrow Pakistan has money, if Pakistan is economically sovereign, if it's economically sovereign, then you can talk about Kashmir, then you can talk about Palestine. Otherwise, it's all talk. There is no action happening. Then you have diplomatic heft. Now, this movement, Zaidi Saab, from geostrategy to geoeconomics, as enunciated by General Bajwa, do you think it's going to happen under Imran Khan, or do you think another prime minister will come and sort of try and take it forward? Because, to a bystander, to a person in another country, a person like me who follows Pakistan very closely, what General Bajwa says makes a lot of sense.
Mr. Gaurav, let me first respond to what Mr. Other person was saying. You're saying, if you read my presentation, unlike the general perception, our economic problems are not primarily due to the expenditure on the military. And we can have a long debate on that. Our basic problem is that we have not been able to actually expand our tax base. And very unfortunately, that is exactly my focus, and that is what I am trying to, that in Pakistan, the tax base has not been able to increase. And I think I slightly don't agree with the the strategic advisor's opinion that those people don't pay tax because they are closer to the government. No, it's not like this. The problem with the Pakistan is that we have to accept it that we have not been able to actually increase our tax base from the level which we should have to the level which we are at the moment. So we are collecting something like 6,500 billion Pakistani rupees. We should have at least collected something like 10,000 at this point of time. So our emphasis is that we have to first discipline the taxpayer. Unfortunately, whenever the Pakistan's problem are taken and whenever the Pakistan issue is taken, I'm not supporting the military regime, but I'm saying the military and the Pakistan army is taken as a cause for that, and I totally disagree with that. Because the Pakistan's basic problem has been that from the tax point of view, from the fiscal point of view, that the Pakistan has not been able to do two things. One is the increasing in the tax base, and second, substantially increasing the export base. Both these things, I have a very clear understanding, and I can vouch with the facts and figures that these two things have not been. I would say they have not deteriorated for any reason that there has been a military government or something like that. So these are the inherent problems which we are now we are embarking upon to put our grounds on the foots on the ground and say that unlike the past, we are saying that this is the problem and this is a political problem. The problem in Pakistan are two basically, and I can vouch. And if you look at my presentation, the problem in Pakistan is that a lot of elitist people are not paying taxes. This is a fact. It is a reality. I have been the chairman of the MBR. And the Pakistan exports have not been able to jump to the level where it should have been. So the military or non-military is not the question. So coming back to second question is that what Mr. Bajwa is saying, I'm not a politician, but what I am saying that Pakistan is a very relevant country in the region. We have a population of 22 billion people, and we have a youngest population, one of the youngest population in the world. The problem which we had faced was that our priorities were actually, our politicians were fighting with each other rather than concentrating on the basic fundamental economic issue of the country. And when the politicians were fighting, they were blaming the military for intervention, which in my view was wrong. Was completely wrong. So the question is, what we are trying, what I have said, what I am saying, what Mr. Bajwa is saying, that politicians have to understand that their job is to correct the economy. They cannot blame everything to establishment and saying this is like that. So this message which we have given in the last week and we are now giving very
clearly. Sir, we'll take a very small break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We'll be right back. Stay with us, please. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Blitzkrieg. I'll go right away to Professor Madhav Nalapat. We have very little time left on the show. I'll give one question to Professor Nalapat, and then we'll be back to Dr. Qais Aslam, and then we'll close the show. You know, Dr. Nalapat, use any accounting terminology. Pakistan is either bankrupt or on the verge of bankruptcy. I say this because it has certain financial commitments in the next year, and it has no means of, no means to getting those assets or that kind of money which can fund those responsibilities, if I may call them, or those expenditures which they're going to accrue in the next financial year. It's simply not there on the table. Yet, Pakistan goes across the world talking about Afghanistan. I've seen this. I've seen this in all of Pakistan's prime ministers. They will never talk about Pakistan. They would love to talk about Afghanistan, Palestine, Kashmir, the entire world except for Pakistan. Do you think, Professor Nalapat, this is going to change? Because there is simply no money. There is simply no money in the coffers.
Gaurav, let me say very clearly that unless every economy in South Asia has a very close business relationship and people-to-people relationship with the largest country in South Asia, which happens to be India, prosperity is going to be quite some distance away. That is a reality. It's a reality that even Nepal under Prime Minister Mr. Oli has accepted. It's a reality that Sheikh Hasina has very wisely come to terms with. It's a reality for Sri Lanka as well. You look at Sri Lankan tourism. Look at so many other things involving Sri Lanka. It is not China. It is India that is a crucial economic partner. The Chinese give loans and they collect interest and they collect land and property and assets. The fact of the matter is Pakistan needs to have a close commercial and people-to-people relationship with India. What is holding them back? Is it the politicians? Is it the elite? Is it the film stars? I don't know. I mean, I mean, frankly, I have deep respect for Mr. Zaidi. He says it is not the military. So possibly, then who is it? Are they film stars, musicians who are holding them back? Now, let me just point two more things. Afghanistan, for heaven's sake, Pakistan military, I'm not talking to Pakistan people, they backed the Taliban. And frankly, they have created a monster because the Taliban represents
Professor Nalapat sir, Professor Nalapat sir, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. I'm absolutely out, sir. I'm absolutely out of time. Last 45 seconds to Dr. Aslam. Sir, what would you say to Imran Khan in the new year 2022? 45 seconds. What would you say to Imran Khan about the economy?
I think, number one, Pakistan should have economic relations with all its neighbors on a mutually beneficial manner. And I agree with that people-to-people contact. But more important is that the land and labor, especially the youth bulge, which Mr. Zaidi was talking about, should be used more efficiently. We should stop being, as I would say, rent-seeking country. We should, economy, we should start becoming a profit-making, and we should tax our profits rather than inputs. Till such time that we do not use our resources. It's a large country in its natural resources. It has youth, it has water resources, it has energy resources, and it has many other resources, gold mines and such forth. We should concentrate now on our economic assets that we can both use to take out dividends as well as to export. Till such time that we go into export-oriented policies, we will
thank
have
you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Professor Dr. Qais Alam, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're absolutely out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. All our panelists, thank you for joining in. We had a wonderful discussion on the first day of 2022. And may this year bring prosperity to the entire world. God bless everybody. A happy new year. And from my team at the studios and I, Jai Hind.